So let's go to text E of hour 0. And I wanted to put that here because even though I'm introducing Homeric poetry, I want to have our fellow readers be aware that we will also have to look at another medium, which is lyric. So there's epic, which is what we're starting with, but then we'll eventually have to go to lyric. And lyric is, in many ways, a unfamiliar medium to modern readers. We're used to straightforward narrative, and then suddenly when the narrative starts skipping things, when you go from A to Z, if you go instead A to C to F to L, M, N, and then to Z, what happens with all the things that were skipped? Well, that's lyric for you. And it's very similar, by the way, to how we dream our own narratives of everyday life. And they don't become everyday when we dream them, and we skip around and we leave things out, and the connections are harder to make. So lyric will be a much bigger challenge for us as readers. And I thought, why not have the reader who's exposed to all of this for the first time have a sample of how lyric looks at Achilles. And here too, it's Achilles as subject of lament. And this time, who's lamenting? It's not so much the female relatives of Achilles as we saw in the previous text that we just looked at. This time, it's the Muses themselves who are, in some ways, the representatives of professional songmaking and the professional side of song culture. These goddesses will figure very prominently in what we're going to be reading later on. So that's why I thought, wouldn't it be good to have a sample of a lyric hero, not just an epic hero, even if it's the same person. And then even the way the hero is lamented, you see it differently here than you saw just a moment ago when you saw the hero being lamented in epic. In text F of hour 0, Achilles is telling a group of Achaeans, and we'll explore the context in much more detail when we proceed with later readings. But here, let's just say that Achilles is addressing a group of heroes whom he knows about a prophecy that his immortal mother, Thetis, made to him, and how he has a choice between living a short life but having an epic that glorifies that short life, or leading a long and fruitful life but losing the epic. So that's of course very important, and we'll unpack all the beautiful things that are going on in this passage when we get to our next phase of discussion. Text G of this same hour 0. And here we're fast forwarding to something that we'll be looking at in hours 22 and 23, where Plato, the great philosopher of the 4th century, is dramatizing how Socrates, who overlaps between the 5th and the 4th centuries, how Socrates died. And I'm zeroing in here on a moment where Socrates is talking to a professional performer of Homeric poetry. If I'm going to do an introduction to Homeric poetry, wouldn't it be fun to see how in the 5th century, which is the classical period, more on which later, in the 5th century, how people actually experienced Homeric poetry. And when you read this, you realize that it's a huge crowd, who are called spectators, because you're supposed to imagine what the words are saying to you. You have a kind of built-in video for the audio. And here's this mass of quote-unquote spectators who are experiencing two primal emotions, fear and pity, as they're listening to some of the greatest scenes of the Iliad and Odyssey. And interestingly, Plato's Socrates starts with a moment, a very climactic moment in the Odyssey, and then switches in a more brief way to some climactic moments in the Iliad. And these moments, look how they illustrate primarily two emotions. One is pity and the other is fear. Let's go to the last of the 8 sample passages that I throw at our readers to get them, I hope, interested and excited about all the readings to come. And this is again from Plato's Ion, the same dialogue from which I quoted before. And as we end this part of our dialogue, our short dialogue, could I just note how the performer himself is quoted as saying, "As I look down at them from the platform on high, I see them each and every one crying or looking terrified, filled with a sense of wonder at what is being retold." And that's, I hope, what we will experience in our being exposed to these beautiful performance media, which we can only read as texts, but which we'll try to make come alive by way of close readings.
Beautiful.
I really like the way Jeff and Claudia responded to my questions, and I liked even better how they asked questions of their own that really went to the core of what I hope most of our readers will get out of this project, which is an understanding of how a hero is speaking not only to his or her people, his or her own contemporaries, but also speaking to everybody through time. That's the way the medium is constructed. The medium is meant for the audiences, or a better way to say it, the groups of the present. You notice I just corrected myself and didn't say audience, because audience implies somebody who's sitting like this and inviting the performer to show me, whereas this medium is a medium where everybody's part of a group. Both the important characters and the unimportant characters, and even those who are listening to what is being told and whose lives are being pulled into the lives of these larger-than-life figures that we know as heroes. So I really liked what we came up with in our freewheeling question and answer session, where I'm not sure who was the primary questioner and who was the primary answerer, and that's the way I like it.